You know, before we start slides, I want to say I really am a Ravens fan, and I rooted for the Ravens against Washington. And for reasons, I rooted for them against Washington in that game. And I just want to say, as soon as Daniel Snyder became the owner of that team, I became a Ravens fan. We're not starting that timer, right? Because this is it. Okay, so this is the story. 50% of the marriages in America fail. And in 1980, I flipped that coin, betting on heads. Guess what? Came up tails. First person in my family to go through a divorce. My parents married 50 years. I had to go to them and tell them I was getting divorced. This was the first time I'd ever seen my father cry. The first time. And that tore me up. I mean, this man had gone through the Depression. He was a grizzled World War II veteran. He's married 50 years. His son's getting divorced. Why was he crying? And then it came to me. He didn't know you could do that. It says in my notes, leave time for laughter. So there I was in a totally new world. I mean, I was 25 years away from my last first date, and this was a new world. You got to remember, when I was out dating, this is how we dated. I mean, we struck the pose. And we had a lot of options, If you wanted to meet a woman, you could go to a bar, or you could really get creative and go to a different bar. That was it. What I found was we had all these choices. It was crazy. There was Match.com. You could fill out forms. They'd pick a date for you. You could date Muslims or Christians or Jays, whatever they are. I mean, there was a whole dating thing. And in a lot of ways, things had gotten better. I mean, it was a better system. It was more efficient. It was highly targeted. The people there had opted in. You weren't going up to bother people who weren't there to date. It was a lot better. But in some ways, there were some issues. They really were. I mean, sometimes people would show up in the world 15 years after they showed up online. And I realized, wait a minute, there's something going on here. There's a different language here. And you needed to understand it, because in the real world, this means curvy. In Match, this means curvy. So I got used to that world. I started to learn it, and then I looked at some of the things that were happening. For instance, women used to say things like, I'm 42. Well, they were 42 5 years ago when they ran in a marathon. In this world, lying, the life cycle of a lie has completely shortened. It's gone. You can't lie. You can't get away with it. And you need to be authentic. People would say, I am so funny, and write the worst, most boring profiles. If you're funny, be funny. People would say, my friends say, well, why don't your friends date you? And then I learned some tricks, You would send notes to women, it would be like spam, they'd ignore them. So there was a thing in Match where they could tell you looked at them. So I would look at a woman, I'd look at her again, I'd look at her again. She'd write to me, she said, hey, what's wrong with me? And I started to realize these are not just dating rules, these are new world operating system rules. We've changed. We've gone from jungle drums, world 1.0, publishing to social media, and you need 5 rules to operate in world 3.0. Here are the rules. First of all, you got to spell things right. Your characters need to not disappear. Your pants burn hotter and faster in world 3.0, so no lying. 2, your reputation matters. You got to protect it. And it's not a PR issue. It's a product management issue. So Dan Snyder, if you suck, you can't PR your way out of sucking. You got to manage yourself out of sucking. You got to unsuck. When you follow these rules, you're dealing with great conversations. You're not digging in the garbage. You're working with you're having meaningful conversations with people. And therefore, it's much more efficient. Rule 4 is, you can talk about yourself and brag about yourself all day, but your body of work really says who you are. You leave breadcrumbs all over the place in this world. And lastly, what you have to do if you want to do business, be a person in this world, is you need to be the pretty girl at the dance. It's all about getting somebody to ask you to dance. So when a good-looking woman asks you to dance, she's an 8. You have to ask the same woman to dance, she's a 10. Get people to ask you to dance. Follow these rules. I met Nancy 5 years ago. We married last year following these rules. We got companies who are very successful following these rules. And we've got a lot of dictators in the Middle East who didn't follow these rules at their peril. Thank you very much.